insight from studying in Spain. I'm presenting myself and why am I relevant to do this presentation. First, I would say that I am from France, so I'm purely European. I am from France and I grew up in France. But then I went to Spain in order to study at IE University. This is the building that you're seeing here. I studied a dual degree in business and international relations, and I studied fully in English because I didn't know any Spanish at that time. So I think that's very important to mention that this is possible also. And I am now working at IE University in Spain. I'm representing IE in Sub-Saharan Africa. So yes, I think we can get questions about Spain and IE at the end, but that's a bit of who I am and why am I know about moving to Spain. So I think it's a good one. Why Spain stands out. First of all, life is amazing in Spain. You're going to have a lot of sun, a lot of people that are very nice, and you're going to have a lifestyle that is very laid back, but also very active. So that's what I was looking for, a very good city where I could be in the sun and have a study life balance that was very important for me. And I think I found this peace in Spain. So I think that would be the first point I want to make, is the lifestyle in Spain. Now, some facts about Spain is that we have over 80 universities, which is quite a high number, and we have a lot of specialized schools. We have popular. It's actually a popular international student destination. I think it tripled from 2 years ago. So a lot of students are coming into Spain because they see the advantage of studying in Spain. It's very affordable compared to like France, for example, or the UK or Switzerland or the Netherlands, for example. So I know out of all of the Western countries that you have, Spain is actually one of the cheapest one. So that's very important also. We have the opportunity to learn Spanish. I didn't speak a word of Spanish when I started at IE. Now I live in Spain, I work in Spain. So I think that's a big advantage, knowing that also Spanish is one of the biggest languages on earth. And then a strong pathway into Europe, because that's true. A lot of people study in Spain and then they just work in Europe in general. Okay. So first of all, I want to say that we have public and private universities. And that's up to you to choose. Private university, just a little bit of facts. We have higher tuition fees, often smaller classes because the education is more personal. You have flexible admission, meaning that sometimes it's rolling system. Sometimes you have a deadline, but you can still like go over the deadline. And the private universities have more English taught programs. So some examples are IE University, the one I work with, or Universidad Europea, which is another one. But you have also public universities, which are lower tuition fee, larger student community, meaning that in a classroom, you're going to be a lot more people than a private university. Then we have more competitive entry because you have more deadlines and it's hard to like go around the deadlines, and more Spanish taught program, obviously, because you're in Spain. So University of Barcelona or Complutense Madrid are two very good public university. But again, this is the difference between the two. It's up to you to choose. Okay. So language requirements. If you are looking for a Spanish taught program, you would need a B2 Spanish level, so a DEL or a CLA, it's called. Those are exams that you can pass if you already speak Spanish. If you do not speak Spanish, a lot of universities do have English taught program. IE University, for example, is fully taught in English. However, there's also other public universities that do have English taught program. Sorry. Those English taught program, though, you would have to look for them, because in the Spanish public universities, you would have a bunch of programs that are in Spanish. Probably the website is in Spanish, but you can still look for the English taught program. And again, for all of those universities, you have people like me that are here to help you. Okay, you just need to look for it and send those emails to the universities. Okay, but the good news is, as I wrote, many private universities, also public universities, have some masters and programs, bachelor programs in English. Okay. Cost of living. For public university, more or less, it's going to be between 1,000 to 4,000 per year for many programs. And then private university is a bit more expensive, as I said. So between 6,000 to, I would say, 20K or more per year. And in master's and MBA, it's a whole different thing. So it can be a bit higher than those prices that I've just said. The good thing is, though, is that in Spain, you have only 1 year of master's. So it's 4 years of bachelor's, 1 year of master. So if the price is higher, you would still pay it only for 1 year. So that's something that you need to consider. Okay. Then living expenses. So Spain is very different than other country because the capital and Barcelona are much more expensive than the rest. But that's why I put depends on the city, because Valencia, Granada, Sevilla, Zaragoza are cities that are quite affordable. But then when you look at Madrid and Barcelona, it can be quite expensive, still cheaper than the UK and France, as I said before, France, Switzerland, Germany, etc., but still a bit more expensive. Okay. And roughly, I did a draft of if my thoughts of a monthly budget, I would say between 700 to 1,500 a month. Depends a lot on how you like to live. If you like to live by yourself in a nice flat, you eat a lot, etc., that would be 1,500. If you like to be in shared flats, you don't need too much comfort, all of this, that's going to be 700. And 700, it's going to be also mainly like in those cities, Valencia, Granada, Sevilla, Zaragoza. Madrid and Barcelona, it would be more 1,000. Okay. Student visa for non-EU students. What I tell my students is always to apply the earliest, the better, because that gives you time to do the visa. Some common documents that you need is going to be admission letter, proof of funds, health insurance, accommodation, passport, police clearance. It depends a lot on the embassy that you're going to. You have a consulate, Spanish consulate in your country, or you don't. You need to figure that out. And once you get your admission letter, you need to go to this consulate and ask for a visa. Okay, the visa is for a year. You apply, it's for a year, but then you renew it every year from Spain. So you wouldn't have to come back to your country in order to renew your visa. Knowing this, this visa is also 27 countries. So you're not only getting a visa for Spain, you're getting a visa for all Europe, which I think is amazing because that allows you to travel in between your studies, which is a quite good opportunity in Europe, especially because it's really not that expensive compared, for example, inter-Africa flights, okay, which are much more expensive than what it is in Europe. Okay, again, apply early through the Spanish consulate in your country, or refer to one who represents your country. So that depends a lot on where you live. Okay. Post-study opportunities, that's a very good one. Most of my friends that were non-European stayed in Europe. They're not necessarily in Spain now, but for example, I have a lot of friends in Google, TikTok, all of those big companies. They are all in Dublin. So a lot of my friends actually stayed in Dublin. You would have to find a job where they sponsor your visa for staying in Europe, but it's quite common actually. It's obviously harder a bit, but it's still possible. And as I'm telling you, like my 5 closest friends who are not from Europe, and they all stayed in Europe. Okay. You can do a master. That's also a possibility. At IE specifically, we have a very good entrepreneurship opportunities. I think in all schools in Spain, they teach you about entrepreneurship, even though you're not doing business. And I think it's a good starting point if you want to stay in Spain. And yeah, as I said, EU career mobility, so you can stay in Spain or you can go wherever you want in Europe. That's also depending on your language that you're speaking, because Spanish is good, but if you go to France, probably you would need to speak French in order to be accepted in a company. Okay. Final advice, if you are considering Spain, I would say first select the city, because if you want the sea, or if you want the city that is calmer, or if you want the big city like Madrid, you need to choose the city and the university carefully. The language, very important. Is your school speaking English? Are they fully in Spanish and some programs are in English? Because that's going to make your life a bit more hard if you don't speak Spanish, because you would still have to speak to the person at the door, at the reception, and they might only speak Spanish. Are you ready to take on that challenges? Or do you prefer a full international school? That's something you need to think of. Budgeting, very important. How much can I get as a scholarship? We're going to get into this. How much is my tuition fee? How much does it cost to live in this city? I think online you have lots of information, and if you need someone to speak to, you always have a rep for all the universities you're interested in. Okay. Preparation, start visa process early. So that means apply to university early. I would say that with my students, I take about 3 months to do a visa. So it's quite long. So I think like by May, I try to have all of my students registered into IE and work with the visa for the visa with them. Okay. So calculate this 3 months in order to take out a visa. And then scholarships, apply for scholarships where possible. That means you need to ask people. You need to ask the university people if they have scholarship, how does it work, how much is it, etc., etc. And again, probably the sooner you apply to a scholarship, to a school, the sooner you get in, the sooner you can apply to scholarships and the bigger amount you can get. Okay. So I think the more in advance you are, the better always. Okay. Once again, thank you. This is my contact email. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Even if you're not interested into I can help you. I'm also a French citizen, so I do know a bit about universities in France specifically. But yes, you have my contact here. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen now. So if you can just take a picture, or I'll put it in the chat, and then we can get into questions. Thank you.
All right, Miss Emma, thank you so much. That was very, very insightful.
Of course.
We have a question here, and Ezra's asking if I'm taking AS or A level courses, do I still need to take TOEFL or any other English? Uh,
No. So, I
Cynthia?
mean, that would be specifically, I want to emphasize on the fact that those questions are specifically for IE, but I would guess that in Spain it's like this in general. But how we work in IE is that if you have studied the last 2 years in English, you do not need to take a TOEFL exam. Okay. Or if you're living in an English speaking country, you do not need to take those English certification. Okay.
All right. So I understand that it is university specific, college specific. So should they go on the university portal and check for each of these universities?
Yes, I think so. And probably for each of the programs, because maybe you have a law program that is taught in English, but some of the classes are in Spanish. So maybe you need to like dig in a bit more into the university, into each requirements of each universities in order to have your clear answer. Again, for all those universities, you have someone from like me who is here to help you. So you need to look for those contacts, and by just sending an email, they will respond to you with the answers you're looking for.
Lovely. I do also have a question. Could you please share the application timeline, including the key deadlines, once more for all our students' benefit?
Yes. So I believe that for my university again, we have a rolling system. So actually, we don't have an end date. However, I would recommend that if you want to study in Spain, you should start applying from September to December of your senior year. Okay. Some universities have deadlines in February. Some universities have deadline in January. Some way later. That depends a lot. But if you are interested in to Spain, I would recommend that you look for those deadlines way in advance. You know that now for IE you don't have deadlines, but again, our bachelors tend to fill in very quick. So if in April we're full, we can't take anyone, and you would be on waiting list. So that's another problem for you guys to get a visa, for example, if you need a visa. Okay.
All right. Very interesting. Thank you so much. Nicola has raised hand. Nicola, if you have any questions, could you please put this in the chat? Or if you want to speak with Miss Emma specifically about IE University, I suggest you go to her room by going to virtual lobby after this presentation and ask her any of the questions about her universities.
Yes.
All right. So I guess these were the questions. So thank you so much, Ms. Emma. That
Of
was
course.
very, very insightful, and we are very, very excited to be going to Spain actually, and
Spain is great.
specifically University. Thank you so much.
Of
And
course,
we'll
it's
see you in
nice to
the room.
meet you. Perfect. I'll go to my room.